You don't rise with purpose, you wake up overwhelmed. That's not just a bad habit, it's a warning sign. Because how you begin your day silently decides how the rest of it will unfold. If the first thing you do is reach for chaos, don't be surprised when everything feels out of control. And let's be honest, most of us are running on fumes before we even step outside. Not because we're weak, but because no one taught us how to start strong. And that's the real problem. When your mind wakes up in survival mode, you spend the whole day catching up, reacting, spinning. The Stoics believe that how you greet the morning is how you face the world. Epictetus said, "First say to yourself what you would be and then do what you have to do." But you can't become that person if your day begins in digital noise and emotional fog. If your mornings feel like a race you never signed up for, heart pounding, mind spinning, pressure already boiling before your feet hit the floor, you're not just tired, you're misaligned. That anxious churn in your gut? It's not just a rough mood. It's a signal that your day is already slipping out of your control. And the worst part? You normalize it. You call it just how life is, but it's not. It's the silent killer of your momentum. Because when your first thoughts are stress and noise, you carry that chaos like a stain into everything. Every text, every meeting, every move you make. So let's drop the mask for a second and admit the truth. Most of us don't wake up and crush it. We wake up and hit snooze. We scroll through junk. We check notifications we didn't even ask for. And by the time we're finally vertical, we're already behind. The day drags us instead of us leading it. Sound familiar? It's not because you're lazy. It's because your morning has no momentum. That early chaos, it's like pouring dirty fuel into a Ferrari. Of course you feel sluggish, of course everything feels heavier. But here's the twist you've been waiting for. You're just a few small, deliberate choices away from flipping that script. A few powerful rituals can take you from drifting to driven, from scattered to focused, from exhausted to on fire. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." Your chaotic mornings aren't obstacles, they're invitations. And as Carl Jung once said, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life. And you will call it fate. So if anything, in here feels like it's speaking to you. If you value this kind of clarity and the mindset we're building together here, do me one simple free favor. Hit that subscribe button. Don't skip around. Don't miss a piece. This isn't just a video, it's a reset. Stay with me. Because by the end of this, you'll have a morning that actually fuels you. Let's get into it. Wake with intention. It's strange, isn't it? How the very first moment of your day, before you've even said a word, can decide everything that follows. But that's the truth. Your morning doesn't begin with movement. It begins with mindset. And the problem? Most of us are waking up, reacting to noise, to alerts, to obligations we didn't even consciously agree to. Our feet hit the floor, but our mind is already playing catch-up. And right there, in that tiny, almost invisible crack between unconscious sleep and conscious wakefulness, you face the first real decision of the day. Will you lead your morning, or will you let it lead you? When the alarm rings, it's more than a signal to wake up. It's a crossroads. Do you grab your phone and drown in other people's priorities? Or do you pause, breathe, listen inward before the noise gets in? That single pause, just a few seconds of awareness, might be the most powerful part of your day, because the way you enter the world sets the tone for how you experience it. Stoic philosopher Seneca once said, "If a man knows not to which port he sails, no wind is favorable." If you don't choose a direction at the start of your day, don't be surprised when everything feels scattered, rushed, or off course. Psychologically, your mind is incredibly suggestible in those first few moments after waking. What you feed it, thoughts, feelings, even self-talk, becomes the filter through which your brain processes the rest of the day. So if your first input is panic, stress, or distraction, guess what? That becomes the baseline. But if you start with a question, something as simple as, how do I want to feel today? You give your mind a compass. It's not about being idealistic. It's about being intentional. Saying, I want to feel focused, or I want to lead with calm, gives your brain a narrative. and it begins aligning your actions with that story. Carl Jung said, "You are what you do, not what you say you'll do. But what you do begins with what you believe. And what you believe begins with what you direct your mind to focus on." Waking up with intention doesn't require a radical lifestyle overhaul. It doesn't mean waking up at 4 a.m. to meditate on a mountaintop. It's simply the act of choosing your inner posture before you take your first external step. Reclaim the first 10 minutes. The moment your eyes open, the clock starts ticking. But not just in the way we usually think. Those first few minutes aren't just the beginning of your day. They're the blueprint for everything that comes next. It's like this. Whatever tone you set in the first 10 minutes, your mind tries to match it for the rest of the day. Start rushed, you stay scattered. Start grounded, you move with quiet power. Yet, most of us hand over that sacred space the second we wake up. We give it away to headlines, notifications, drama that isn't even ours, and then we wonder why our minds feel so noisy by noon. But what if you didn't? What if, instead of plugging into the outside world, you tuned into yourself first? 10 minutes. That's all it takes. 10 minutes to breathe, to stretch, to write one line in a journal, not for Instagram, but for clarity. Light a candle if you want. Sit in silence if that's your thing, or simply place your feet on the ground and remember, I'm here. I'm alive. I'm choosing. That kind of presence? It's rare. But it's also powerful. The Stoics knew the value of those quiet, early moments. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself each morning that the world would test him, that injustice, chaos, and disorder were part of the deal. But he also reminded himself that he had control over how he responded. That reminder happened before the world reached for him. And that's the move. You respond to yourself first, before reacting to everything else. From a psychological standpoint, this is more than a productivity hack. It's cognitive conditioning. What you practice during those quiet moments primes your subconscious, and your subconscious runs the show far more than you think. Carl Jung said, "People will do anything, no matter how absurd, to avoid facing their own souls. But what if you didn't avoid it? What if you sat with it, even just for 10 minutes, and faced the quiet instead of fleeing it?" It's not about building some complex picture-perfect morning routine. You don't need an altar or a checklist. What you need is intention. Maybe you write down your top focus for the day. Maybe you stretch out the tension from your back. Maybe you sip your coffee slowly, instead of chugging it like a firefighter responding to a 3-alarm blaze. These things sound small, but they're not. They are acts of sovereignty, of reclaiming your mental real estate before the world starts building on it. Think of those first 600 seconds like the ignition of a high-performance engine. You don't floor the gas before it warms up. You ease in, you let the machine stabilize, and when you do, the performance speaks for itself. Your day feels different. Not because you did more, but because you did less. On purpose. Visualize like it already happened. Most people wake up and immediately worry about what could go wrong. They start the day in defense mode, thinking about deadlines, awkward conversations, unfinished tasks. It's like walking into battle already bracing for defeat. But here's a truth you've probably never been told. Your mind doesn't just follow your body. Your body also follows your mind. And that means the first image you hand your brain in the morning has incredible power. It doesn't just color your mood, it influences your actions, your confidence, and even your results. That's not magic. That's how the brain works. Now, here's where it gets interesting. Your brain, especially your subconscious, can't tell the difference between something vividly imagined and something real. That's why athletes visualize themselves scoring before they step onto the field. Why performers rehearse standing ovations in their heads long before they walk on stage. Because when you mentally see yourself doing something successfully, your brain starts treating that image like a memory, like something to prepare for, not just dream about. This isn't fluff, it's neuroscience. It's the foundation of what psychologists call mental rehearsal. When you sit quietly, even for just a few moments, and see yourself doing the thing that matters most to you. You're literally programming your mind to chase that outcome. You visualize with all your senses, feel the room, hear the applause, see the email confirmation. Picture the version of yourself who's already done the work, already made the call, already finished the thing. You're not escaping reality. You're shaping it. The Stoics believed in the power of premeditation. While they often used it to prepare for hardship, the principle still applies. Visualizing outcomes, good or bad, equips the mind for what's to come. Seneca called it premeditatio malorum, the premeditation of evils. He imagined the worst, to reduce its power. But what if you used the same logic in reverse, to reduce the fear of success? To normalize achievement in your own mind, so that it doesn't feel like a fluke when you finally get there? Carl Jung once said, "Your vision will become clear only when you look into your heart. Who looks outside, dreams. Who looks inside, awakes." Visualization is exactly that. It's a practice of waking up your internal compass before the world distracts it. You're not waiting for success to show up. You're preparing to meet it. And that mental blueprint you create each morning becomes a guide your brain will subconsciously follow as the day unfolds. So here's the move. Tomorrow morning, don't just roll out of bed and roll into autopilot. Sit still. Close your eyes. Pick one goal, just one, and see yourself already there. Hear the voice of confidence in your tone. Watch the way you move with certainty. Feel the lightness that comes with follow-through. The more vivid, the better. The more emotion, the more effective. This is how you prime your mind to act with intention instead of reaction. Move before you think. Let's get one thing straight. Motivation is wildly overrated. Most people sit around waiting for it, like it's some divine spark that will strike them out of nowhere. They tell themselves, "I'll move when I feel inspired," or "I'll start when I'm ready." But here's the catch. That moment rarely comes, because motivation isn't the starter, it's the result. The truth is, action comes first, not the big, dramatic kind, just movement. The tiniest flicker of effort. One push-up, one stretch, one slow lap around the block while the sun is barely up. And that changes everything. The body leads the mind more often than we realize. You start moving, and something shifts. Your blood flows. Your breath deepens. Your brain, still foggy from sleep, starts to clear. It's not about intensity. It's about initiation. You're sending a signal, a physical cue to your system that says, "We're awake now. We're on." That cue isn't just physical. It triggers mental alignment. It tells your thoughts to shape up, your emotions to stabilize, your energy to rise. Suddenly, what felt overwhelming an hour ago starts to look like something you can actually handle. Epictetus spoke often about the importance of action. Not waiting, not overthinking, just doing. As Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." Strength isn't found in endless planning or mental spirals. It's found in those quiet early moments when you move before your doubts wake up. Because doubt will always try to hijack your morning. It waits for stillness. It thrives in hesitation. The second you hesitate, your mind starts filling the space with reasons not to act. But when you act first, you rob doubt of its fuel. Carl Jung once said, "What you resist persists." And the longer you resist that first step, the heavier it becomes. But here's the beautiful part. Resistance isn't some immovable wall. It's a fog, and fog disappears when you walk into it. That's why the first few minutes of movement aren't just a health habit. They're psychological warfare. They clear the fog. They teach you again and again that you don't need to feel ready to begin. You just need to begin. And no, you don't need to be an athlete. This isn't about performance. It's about intention. 15 push-ups before the shower, a quick stretch on the floor, walking your dog with your phone on airplane mode. The content doesn't matter nearly as much as the consistency. What matters is that you moved, and by doing so, reminded yourself that you are in charge, that your excuses don't run the show. You do. Every time you choose motion over delay, you reclaim a piece of your discipline. And that discipline adds up, day by day, step by step, choice by choice. Until one day, what used to feel heavy becomes your baseline. You wake up, you move, you lead, and the rest of your day follows the tempo you set. Rewrite your inner script. There's a voice in your head that never stops talking. You know the one. It narrates your day, judges your choices, reminds you of past failures, doubts, your future, all before you've even had your coffee. And here's the thing, you're not crazy, you're human. That voice is always there. But the question is, who's writing the script? Because if you're not being intentional with it, chances are it's been hijacked by old fears, outside opinions, years of subtle self-sabotage disguised as realism. We all have an inner dialogue, and most of it is unconscious, shaped by what we've heard growing up, what society repeats to us, what failure has whispered when things didn't go our way. But if you don't learn to consciously shape that narrative, it will shape you, every single day. The Stoics understood this well. Epictetus said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." And that reaction? It starts in your internal monologue, the story you tell yourself before the world even tells you anything. Think about it. What's the first thing you tell yourself when you look in the mirror? Be honest, is it kind? Is it strong? Or is it a sneaky form of judgment dressed up as motivation? Because here's the truth. Self-talk is not fluff. It's not spiritual wallpaper. It's strategy. Carl Jung put it bluntly. Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate. That's exactly what's happening when you let negative self-talk run unchecked. It becomes your internal operating system. And worse, you start thinking it's just who you are. But what if you flip the script? What if the first words you heard each morning weren't self-doubt, but self-direction? You don't need to recite 100 affirmations or pretend to be someone. You're not. Just speak one sentence of power into your day, out loud, something that aligns with who you're becoming. Something like, "I move with clarity," or "I don't respond to chaos," or "I get stronger every time I show up." These aren't cheesy mantras. They're anchors, and repetition turns them into beliefs. Beliefs shape identity, and identity drives behavior. You wouldn't talk to a friend the way you talk to yourself, so why give yourself the worst version of your own voice? Every word you say, even in your own head, either lifts you up or drags you back. It either builds momentum or reinforces doubt. There is no neutral. Your brain is always listening, and with enough repetition, it starts believing. So use that power on purpose. Try it tomorrow. Don't wait for your mood to catch up. Stand in front of the mirror and say something true, even if it doesn't feel comfortable yet. Say, "I am in control of how I move through this day." Say, "I keep promises to myself." You're not lying. You're leading. You're programming your mind to see you as someone worth following. And when your mind believes that, the world starts to believe it too. Write down one win. Most people wake up and immediately drown in a flood of tasks, notifications, obligations, a mental to-do list that's a mile long and somehow growing by the minute. And because there's so much to do, they end up doing nothing that really moves the needle. The day becomes reactionary, one distraction after another. One fire put out, another sparked. By the time the sun sets, they're exhausted but not fulfilled. Busy, but not better. The real problem? They never picked a win. They never chose something that mattered enough to focus their energy. And when everything is important, nothing truly is. The solution isn't complicated. It's clarity. One single moment of intention can shift your entire day. Grab a pen, not your phone, not a mental note you'll forget by lunch, a pen, and write down one thing, one win, one meaningful action you'll take that day. It doesn't have to be grand. Send the proposal. Do the hard workout. Have the conversation you've been avoiding. This isn't a checklist. It's a commitment, a declaration, a psychological line in the sand that says no matter what else happens, this will get done. From a Stoic point of view, this is the essence of discipline, choosing your focus, acting on your values, not getting lost in noise. As Seneca put it, if a man knows not to which port he sails, no wind is favorable. That written win, that's your port. It's the direction you're moving, even if the world around you pulls in every other direction. That clarity becomes armor, and that single action, when completed, becomes your anchor. It gives the day shape, weight, meaning. Psychologically, this practice also taps into something powerful. Carl Jung spoke of the importance of integrating the unconscious into conscious life. He said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate." Writing down your one win brings your deeper intentions, the stuff you actually care about, out of the fog and into form. It moves them from wishful thinking into something real, visible, concrete. You no longer hope to do it. You've declared it, and your brain takes that seriously. The moment you write it, something changes. Your subconscious registers it as a target. Throughout the day, you'll feel a subtle pull toward completing it. That pull is momentum. And when you follow through, when you cross it off, you get more than a dopamine hit. You get proof. Proof that you can set a goal and honor it. That's how confidence is built, not in bursts of genius, but in small daily promises kept. And the best part? It stacks. Today's win makes tomorrow's commitment easier. You're not just writing tasks. You're writing identity. You're shaping a version of you who finishes what they start, doesn't wait for inspiration or ideal conditions, leads their day with purpose. Do the hardest task. First, there's always that one thing. You know the one. The task that lingers at the back of your mind, quietly draining your energy just by existing. It sits there while you scroll. It follows you into the shower. It whispers in the middle of your other tasks, making everything feel heavier than it should. It's not the size of the task, it's the weight of your resistance to it. And here's the uncomfortable truth. The thing you're avoiding isn't just an item on a list. It's your mental anchor. It holds you down, even when everything else seems in motion, and yet, we dance around it. We warm up with easy wins. We fill our mornings with productive procrastination, pretending to be busy while avoiding the one thing that would actually move the needle. But if you've ever powered through that tough email, first thing, hit that brutal workout before breakfast, had the hard conversation before noon, you already know the secret. It sets you free. That task, as uncomfortable as it might be, holds the key to unlocking your momentum. From a Stoic perspective, this approach isn't just practical, it's foundational. As Cleanthes wrote, "Lead me, Zeus, and you destiny, to wherever you have assigned me. I shall follow without hesitation." The Stoics didn't wait for the right mood to face challenges. They walked toward them. They understood that clarity and power come from meeting difficulty head-on, not avoiding it. That mindset didn't just build toughness, it built peace. Because once the hard thing is done, everything else feels easier by comparison. Carl Jung explored the same idea through the lens of integration. He said, "What you resist not only persists, but will grow in size." When we avoid what we fear or dislike, we don't escape it. We amplify it. But when we confront it, especially early in the day, we reclaim that space in our minds. The resistance evaporates, and what's left in its place is a kind of focused calm that no amount of planning or journaling can replicate. This isn't about punishment, it's about freedom. Tackling the hardest thing first means you stop letting it drain you from the background. You take the tension and flip it into fuel, and the ripple effect is real. You move through your next task faster. You speak more confidently. You make decisions more clearly. Why? Because you already proved to yourself that you can do the thing you least wanted to do. That self-trust shows up in how you carry yourself. So don't wait for motivation to magically appear. Don't give yourself the illusion of productivity by doing all the easy stuff first. Pick the one thing that's weighing on your chest and deal with it first. No warm-up, no debate. Just step into it. Action before avoidance. The rush you feel after? That's not just relief. That's clarity. That's alignment. That's your energy no longer held hostage by hesitation. And the more often you start your day like that, the more your identity shifts. You stop seeing yourself as someone who avoids pressure and start seeing yourself as someone who performs under it, someone who doesn't flinch, someone who finishes. Practice controlled discomfort. Comfort is sneaky. It convinces you that ease is the goal, that avoiding friction means you're doing fine, that staying in your safe little bubble, your habits, your patterns, your predictable routines, is just being smart. But here's what comfort doesn't tell you. It slowly robs you of your edge. The more you protect yourself from discomfort, the more fragile you become, not just physically, but mentally, emotionally, spiritually. Because growth doesn't come from what's easy. It comes from what stretches you. You don't need chaos to evolve. You don't need your life to fall apart for you to rise. What you need is a challenge, a chosen one. One you pick deliberately while you still have the luxury of choosing. That could be a cold shower that shocks your nervous system awake, a brutal, early workout when every cell is begging you to stay in bed, reading something difficult when TikTok is one swipe away. These aren't punishments, they're practice. You're teaching your brain, I don't run from hard things. I do them on purpose. That belief rewires you. In Stoic philosophy, this practice was called premeditatio malorum, the premeditation of adversity. Seneca encouraged people to expose themselves to discomfort regularly, wearing rough clothes, eating plain food, sleeping without luxury. Not to suffer, to train. He wrote, "Set aside now and then a number of days during which you shall be content with the scantiest and cheapest fare, with coarse and rough dress, saying to yourself the while, 'Is this the condition I feared?' Why? Because fear of discomfort is often worse than discomfort itself. But once you choose it, once you step into it willingly, it loses its grip on you." Carl Jung echoed this in psychological terms. He believed that integrating the shadow, the part of ourselves we avoid, was the path to wholeness. He wrote, "There is no coming to consciousness without pain. That pain doesn't need to be trauma or chaos. Sometimes, it's simply the pain of choosing growth over ease, of facing the moment, when you don't want to do something and doing it anyway. That moment is where resilience begins. Controlled discomfort builds something deeper than toughness. It builds trust in yourself. You start to believe, with evidence, that you can handle pressure, that you don't need ideal conditions to take action, that you don't need everything to feel good for you to move forward. And that's a powerful place to live from, because life won't always be gentle. It won't always give you warm-ups, but if you've built emotional armor in the quiet hours of the morning, you'll meet challenges with calm, not panic. Learn something, anything. There's something sacred about the quiet of the morning, before the notifications start, before the world makes demands of you. There's this short window where your mind is open, clear, unburdened by noise. Most people waste that space scrolling, reacting, distracting themselves with junk food for the brain. But what if you treated it like a sacred space for growth instead? Just 5 minutes. One page, one idea, one insight that sharpens your thinking before the world dulls it. You're not just preparing for your day, you're preparing your mind for the long game. In the world we live in, attention is currency, and what you feed your mind first thing in the morning has ripple effects you can't even measure. If you feed it chaos, you'll think in chaos. If you feed it purpose, you'll act with purpose. That's why intentional learning in the morning is such a powerful ritual. It doesn't have to be a deep dive study session, just a few minutes of something meaningful, a paragraph that challenges your perspective, a lesson that nudges your growth forward, a moment that reminds you, I'm still becoming. The Stoics didn't separate learning from living. To them, wisdom was action. Marcus Aurelius journaled his thoughts, not to impress anyone but to refine his character. He knew that the first battle each day was internal. He wasn't just fighting external forces, he was shaping himself. He saw learning as armor. Seneca even said, "As long as you live, keep learning how to live." Because to stop learning isn't just to plateau. It's to decay, slowly, quietly, until you wake up one day and realize you haven't changed in years. Carl Jung too saw lifelong learning as essential to the individuation process, the journey of becoming a whole, integrated person. He believed that every person holds untapped potential, buried beneath layers of conditioning. But to unlock it, you have to seek it. You have to stay curious, he said. Knowledge rests not upon truth alone, but upon error also. Which means that the process of learning, even when messy or uncomfortable, is always pushing you toward expansion. And that's what learning in the morning does. It gives your brain something real to chew on. It strengthens your mental flexibility. It makes you more adaptable, more insightful, more prepared. Not just for meetings or deadlines, but for life itself. Because the person who learns, every day becomes harder to shake. They don't get stuck in old stories. They don't fear change. They pivot, because they've trained for it. So tomorrow, don't let your first thoughts be noise. Choose your first input with intention. Read a paragraph from a classic. Watch a 5-minute tutorial. Listen to a thinker who challenges your worldview. Don't just consume, engage, take notes, reflect, ask, how can I apply this today? Because it's not about stuffing your head with facts, it's about feeding your mind with clarity. And clarity, in a world full of confusion, is a superpower. Feel grateful, but mean. Most people think of gratitude as something nice to have, like a bonus feeling you sprinkle on top of your day when everything's already going well. But real gratitude, the kind that changes you, it's not light and fluffy, it's fierce. It's a mindset you carry into the storm. It's how you find strength when everything feels uncertain. Gratitude isn't about pretending life is perfect. It's about remembering that even in chaos, there's still something worth holding on to. It doesn't erase your struggles, but it changes the lens through which you face them. That's not delusion, that's strategy. The Stoics were masters of this. They didn't walk around chanting affirmations. They practiced perspective. Epictetus said, "He is a wise man who does not grieve for the things which he has not, but rejoices for those which he has." They trained themselves to appreciate the basics, life, breath, choice, not because they were blind to difficulty, but because they understood how much power lives in focusing on what's still working instead of what's broken. That kind of gratitude isn't passive. It's active, and it's something you can choose, moment by moment. Carl Jung took it deeper. He believed that the way we interpret our experiences has more power than the experiences themselves. He wrote, "The greatest and most important problems of life are all fundamentally insoluble. They can never be solved, but only outgrown. Gratitude helps you outgrow your problems, not by solving them instantly, but by shifting your identity away from the person who's stuck to the one who sees beyond the stuckness. That shift in identity, that's the beginning of growth. And it starts by acknowledging what's already here. So how do you do it? Not by just saying I'm grateful like it's a checkbox. You feel it, you write it, you mean it, you breathe it in like oxygen. You get still for 30 seconds and say, I'm grateful for this chance. I'm grateful I woke up. I'm grateful I've made it through worse and I'm still standing. And if it's a rough morning, good. That's when it matters most, because gratitude is easy when things are smooth. But when you can find it in the middle of a mess, that's when it transforms you. And something beautiful happens when you start your day like that. Your energy shifts. You don't walk into situations already guarded or bitter. You move with openness and strength. You're not trying to control everything, you're noticing what you can control. And that grounded energy, it flows into how you speak, how you lead, how you handle pressure. Gratitude doesn't make you softer, It makes you stronger. It keeps your mind from spiraling into what's missing and centers it on what's meaningful. Your mornings are more than a routine. They're a declaration of who you are, of who you're becoming. The way you rise says everything about the way you move through the world. So rise with intention, move with clarity, speak with power, and choose every single day to be the one who leads, not the one who waits. So tomorrow, don't drift into your day. Design it, lead it, own it. If this spoke to you, there's more waiting. Watch one of the suggested videos on the screen. It could be the next step in the direction you've been needing. And thank you for being a part of us. See you in the next one.